All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What is going on, SHIPIT Nation, YouTube station? We are back. Excited to be off the injury report and back with my guy Rio talking some hoops. Pretty long couple days for your boy. They hit me with the COVID, whatever, the bird flu, whatever's going around right now. It got your boy pretty good, but we're feeling good. We're back in action for a interesting 5-game slate here. Curious to hear your thoughts before we dive in. 4 of the 5 games, Rio, are all double-digit spreads. Do you have any pre-slate thought process before we dive in? And how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I had a long weekend myself for different reasons. Obviously, I was at the UFC event with Title and my girl and his wife, so that was a lot of fun. Seeing Intuit Dome in person for the first time, seeing all those fights in person is always a lot of fun. But yeah, as far as this slate goes, 5-game slates are always pretty cool, just from like a game theory aspect, because you can really just I think you can get into game stacks a lot more, kind of talk about correlating pieces a lot on the show. But tonight is definitely a big slate for that. The issue is you have double-digit spreads in every game but one, and the one game that does have the closest spread is the lowest game total by a pretty wide margin. So yeah, it's an interesting slate. You don't have to game stack. I do think that there are some games that I like more than the others that we'll get into as we break down the slate. But yeah, it looks like a pretty fun one. A lot of injury tags that are pretty big, and we don't. There's the 2 late games are probably some of the bigger ones in terms of injury, with Philly dealing with Q tags on Paul George, Yabu, and Drummond, and then obviously Anthony Davis in the Lakers game. But even these first set of games, the Orlando stuff is going to be tough to break down with not knowing the injury tags on guys like Cole Anthony and Jonathan Isaac. This team is really, really thin right now and playing not too good, but yeah, excited to break it down with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say what's up to some people in chat. Usual suspects: Little Neck, Wins a Lot, Parabay, Jason Turner, Jordan. Congrats on the promotion. I think I'm reading down here. Handle your business, big guy. Congratulations on that. Matt, Joseph, thinking about joining the nation. Get your ass in here, bro. Stop wasting time. I'll throw a promo code up for you. Get a part of the Discord. All these guys that are here in chat, including so many more. It's so informative to dive in to a Discord and listen to these guys chat about hoops. Wardo, Ricky Rose, still my favorite YouTube username out there. So shout out to Ricky Rose. Matt, don't think I missed anybody. Taylor Johnson, William Ross, Jay. Let's dive in first for our guy Joseph over here. Let me slap up the promo. Believe we're still running it. We're taking it away soon. Ship $50 off your first month with all access to the site, including Shiptimizer. It's just an awesome community, and if you're thinking about it, just try it, man. I make the joke, the same as a gym membership that a lot of people don't use. They just get hit with it every month. But utilize it here and make some money while you're doing it. Let's see if I can get the correct overlay. There we go. Boom. Let's dive in. First game. Knicks at the Nets. 12.5-point favorites here for the Knicks and a 219 total. Karl Anthony Towns, Hart are both probable. D'Lo's also probable. And the outs are going to be the important ones that, are kind of sudden are Ben Simmons, Zaire Williams, and Cam Thomas. Obviously some other injuries in there. But what are we thinking about here? And an interesting game to start with a 12.5, 13-point spread.
Yeah, the Nets are just like a train wreck on offense right now, struggling to score 100 points most nights. I think that will probably continue tonight. Knicks have been pretty solid defensively this season and especially this month, but the Nets are bottom 2 in offensive rating in January. Just don't have anybody that can really score the ball outside of guys like Claxton, Cam Johnson, D'Angelo Russell. Those bench guys and those young guys just don't really do enough. So the Knicks should definitely roll here. This is pretty much a second home game for them. I imagine there's going to be more Knicks fans and Nets fans in attendance tonight. Not a game I really want to get too much in. You could always make the case for guys like Cat and Brunson. I think the spot is definitely better for Karl-Anthony Towns, and he's more likely to hit in a really big way in three quarters. Just the Nets have little to no rim defense this season, and Cat's going to be able to exploit that weakness here. Coming off a down game by his standards, was a rebound away of a double-double, only put up 13 points, but you can kind of chalk that up to bad shooting variance. He shot 1 for 6 from three-point range, so I think the Cat is probably the best play on the Knicks tonight. The one area the Nets are decent with on the defensive side of things is with their on-ball defense, so I'm not really looking to play a 9K Brunson with a fully healthy team. Probably would be max one of the secondary pieces from Hart, Bridges, and OG. I think the spot is pretty good for Mikal Bridges, though. Not a revenge narrative, but hometown or homecoming game, I guess, in a sense, going back to Brooklyn after getting traded in the offseason. There's definitely no revenge in his heart. The Knicks got a pretty good package, or the Nets got a really good package deal for him. I think 5 first-round picks, whatever it was, and the Knicks got their guys. So I don't think there's any really hard feelings between these two teams. But he got cut down. His minutes got cut down in a pretty big way last time out against Atlanta. Only played 27 minutes in that game and was pretty efficient shooting the ball, 12-17 from the field. He had like a 14-point third quarter in like 5 minutes, something like that. Just completely went off as he had Trae Young on him, was just shooting over him, getting easy buckets, and then kind of lost some run just because they had a pretty strong unit out there that was helping him stay off the bench a little bit. So I don't know if it was because of the rotation that he just lost minutes there, or if they had this game circled for him going back to Brooklyn and wanted to get him a lot of minutes tonight. Definitely something that I could see Tibbs talking about in the background. So I definitely have interest in Bridges tonight. Not coming with a insane amount of ownership, mid-teen, something like that, but I think that he's pretty good. So I like Cat and Bridges on the Knicks side. Also think you could play a guy like Campaign, 3.6K, just in case he gets some blowout run. He's been a really solid per minute guy this season. That's from the Nets or the Knicks side. On the Nets side, I think I'm only going to keep D'Angelo Russell in my pool. I don't really the role is really good for him. He's played 6 games for Brooklyn this season since being traded over. Has a 24.5 usage rate, 52% assist percentage, which is insanely high, and then 4.8 minutes of touch time. So the role has been really good. Probably underpriced for at 5.8K for the role that he has. Matchup is actually pretty good. It's being dead last in pick and roll defense. I just see this game getting blown out pretty quickly, so I'm not really too excited about playing a chalky D'Angelo Russell. I guess if you want to play the blowout angle, guys like Tosan, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name because I'll mess it up, but he's been playing pretty well off the bench, and he'll definitely play in a blowout. And then guys like Tyrese Martin and Jalen Wilson, Reese Beekman will be playing deep in a blowout. So I don't think there's enough upside from these guys at this price tag and in the game environment, team total, all that to really get there. But I think Tosan is a decent play at 3.9K.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, from the net side, I saw with Simmons off the floor, obviously small sample, but I mean, D'Lo's looking at like a 55% possible assist rate, some crazy like that. I get the ownership. I guess what my question is, and my fault if I missed it, I don't believe I did. Of all the teams here that are favored by double digits, I feel the most comfortable rostering some of these Knicks. And what I mean by that is that they'll get the extra 3 or 4 minutes, I think, in a blowout just with the whole Tibbs angle. Would you agree with that? Or do you have another team in mind as we keep going that if the game blows out, the starters might get similar minutes?
No, it's definitely the Knicks. I would say they've been pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Like strict on not playing Brunson deep into blowouts. He's kind of the guy, just with the way that his rotation shakes out, that he is more than likely of all the starters to not play the fourth quarter. Whereas guys like Cat, Bridges, and I think OG all start the fourth quarter with the way the rotation works. But they have been adding guys like Landry Shamet into the mix a little bit more. It's kind of that, the dog days of the NBA right now where teams are all nicked up and bruised up. Obviously Cat missed a couple of games, Hart's dealing with the neck injury. But I think I definitely agree with you, though. This is the team that would play their starters deeper in a blowout. We know that for sure.
Absolutely. Nice. Yeah, the Brunson stuff, I mean, he's been on a tear from a scoring perspective, but I would agree. I think, all season long, he's kind of been first guy off the floor for some of these blowouts. All right, moving on. Blazers at the Heat. Heat 10.5 point favorites here in a 221.5 total. Simons, Robert Williams, Chris Murray, Tyler Hero, all questionable with Klingon out. Interested to see what happens here if Robert Williams was to miss with Klingon already out. What are we thinking here? And another possible blowout. But I think, before you dive in, I think this would be the game that could stay the closest. Talk me off that ledge if you disagree.
Yeah, I mean, starting with the Miami side, though, I think I'm expecting a lineup change tonight. We saw Khalil Ware step into the power forward spot last game alongside Bam Adebayo. Got the second half start. I believe Haywood Highsmith got injured in that game and then was ruled out, but he should be back tonight. But I think that they're planning on starting Khalil Ware alongside Bam right now, just because they have he's able to stretch the floor, and you definitely need that when you have a guy like Bam alongside of him. So I think that Khalil Ware and Duncan Robinson should be in the starting lineup. But the Portland side of things, yeah, pretty big Q tags on Anthony Simons and Robert Williams. Slightly, not a really big one on Chris Murray, but yeah, Robert Williams has been talked about a lot in the trade market right now. So they probably don't want to, get their one valuable trade piece injured, I would imagine. So there's a good chance that he could sit here. That would open up a spot for Jabari Walker more than likely. But it could be Duop Reith. I don't think you're really running to play either of those guys as value plays, but those would be the guys that are getting those backup center minutes. And then Anthony Simons, if he were to miss, probably going to be Denny Avdia in the starting lineup. I think they're kind of committed to going Shade and Sharp off the bench, but it'd be one of those two guys in the starting lineup if Simons were to miss. From a game environment standpoint, don't really like this game too much. The Blazers are a good team to attack. They've been bottom 4 defensive rating this month. Heat are just outside the top 10, so there's a little bit of upside for these guys, but Portland's just a really bad offense right now. Huge rim funnel on defense. Miami much more of a three-point and catch-and-shoot funnel. So those are guys you're going to look to on the Portland side of things. Portland's also allowing the second most transition points per game, but Miami is not really that big of a transition offense, so not really too big of a discrepancy there. Yeah, I don't know. This Portland side's gonna be tough to get to. I'm still kind of interested in Scoot, even at 6.9K. Just with if Khalil Ware is in the starting lineup, then there probably aren't too many guys that could play great on-ball defense in the starting lineup with Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. I guess kind of skipped over Tyler Hero because he is questionable tonight as well. Would think that this would be a good spot to get him the night off. He's been playing a ton of minutes lately. They've had a really, really tough schedule with that long West Coast road trip. So I think that there'd be a good chance that he could miss here. We'll get that news up to lock. And if he were to miss, I would imagine it's Terry Rozier sliding in there. But yeah, if that's the case, I mean, they just don't. Miami doesn't have a lot of good on-ball defenders if Haywood Highsmith is coming off the bench, and Scoot's had a really, really good role since he's been added to the starting lineup the last 4 games, averaging 47.5 DK points, 24.5% usage rate, 35% assist percentage, dominating the touches with 6.5 minutes of touch time per game, 17 potential assists per game. Just like a really, really good role, definitely earning of this 7K price tag. But man, he got there really quickly. He was 4.2K. Next time you looked up, he was 5.8K, and now he's 7K. So, but I mean, he's definitely got the upside. I don't mind the matchup, so I would be okay playing a little bit of Scoot Henderson at no ownership. Same for Denny, 6.8K, but only if he's starting. It just gets a little bit messier with Tumani Kamara and Jeremy Grant in the rotation. So yeah, not really too much I want to get to on the Portland side of things. Miami, if Tyler Hero were to miss, that's going to open up a ton of usage. Bam and Jimmy Butler would look a lot better. Terry Rozier, if starting, would look really good. But I think Khalil Ware is definitely the best value on the slate tonight. If he's starting, even if he's not, I'm okay leaning into it a little bit more because probably going to be okay playing him into the blowout. But I mean, he's just been an elite per minute producer, and they showed that he can have upside playing alongside Bam. Kind of been eating into Bam's minutes a little bit this season with Bam not playing too great, but he does have the floor stretching ability, like I mentioned, so he should be safe from a minute standpoint. I really like him as a value option tonight. Duncan is pretty good, starting 4.1K, but matchup is better for guys that score around the basket. And then Jovic has been playing really good this month as well. So I like those. I like the values on the Miami side more so than the spend ups. I just think that from a points per dollar perspective, they're probably a little bit better. But yeah, definitely like Jovic, Ware, and Jovic and Ware I think are ahead of Duncan for me. But I like Ware a lot tonight.
Yeah, no, absolutely love it. Like you said, you had him up in the slate plan. I guess my question here is if Robert Williams was to miss, I mean, we've seen times where Ayton has just kind of been played off of the floor and they've made decisions to not give him much run in the second half. Could we see like a world where it's like Avdia and Grant on the floor at the same time and they're kind of running 4 and 5 to compete with Ware and Bam on the other side? Or am I getting too cute and thinking that that's possible?
No, it's definitely possible. They've run some of that small ball stuff, and Chauncey Billups just doesn't really like those guys in the back end. Like he doesn't. There's a reason why Jabari Walker and Duop Reith aren't in the rotation right now. I mean, this team's been thin all season long, and those guys can't carve out minutes. Yes, I definitely think there's a chance that we get some small ball Denny Avdia or Tumani Kamara lineups at the 5, because Bam is not the biggest center by any means. Chloe Ware, I think, is he's tall, but he's not like the most muscular player in the league. So I think you could possibly see some lineups with those guys in the front court. But maybe that just means more minutes for DeAndre Ayton as well. We've seen him be able to play into the upper 30s like he did against Chicago. So that's also a possibility.
Yeah, really interesting click for me if we do get the news that Williams is out. But no, great breakdown, love it. We are moving on to the closest game of the slate, probably the ugliest, with the Magic at the Raptors. 1 point favorites here for the Magic, and a 212 and a half total. Gary Harris doubtful, Jonathan Isaac questionable, Cole Anthony questionable, Chris Boucher questionable, Suggs out obviously, Quickly's obviously out, and then Abaji out. What kind of mix can we get here? Because, I think this is going to garner extra ownership just because it's the closest game on the slate and people love to kind of stack up multiple pieces from each side. But what's kind of the first thought process here when diagnosing a slate that has this high totals in 4 games and then kind of has a slower pace close game in the mix?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really tough because I do think that this is, I mean, it's pretty easily the worst game environment on the slate. The game total would reflect that, but I mean the Magic could just get really, really thinned out here if Cole Anthony and Jonathan Isaac were to miss, when you're kind of almost being forced to play some of these guys just because usage is going to be condensed. The minutes are going to be super condensed. Like they might have it would probably be more like a 9-man rotation, but it could be close to like an 8-man rotation. And then Toronto side is probably easier to get away from at ownership, but they're not coming in with a too much. And there are some guys I like on that side. I don't know. I'd have to see how ownership shakes out closer to lock, because it's definitely not something I want to play too much of. Like if this game is getting more ownership than Philly, Denver, or Washington and LA, then I'd rather just play deeper into those games than this one, just because I think the high end upside is a lot better than this one. But with all that being said, if those guys on the Magic were to miss, it would get really thin for Orlando. I'll talk about the front court really quick, because Wendell Carter's been playing a lot of minutes lately. A couple of those games were due to blowout. But if you look at the rotation, like he's playing into blowout just because they're never going to play Jonathan Isaac garbage time, just because his body can't really hold up with a ton of minutes. And if Isaac were to miss, I mean, they literally have no center behind him, like no actual like center on the roster behind him. They'd have to fill it in with guys like Tristan Da Silva, probably like Caleb Houston and Jet Howard a little bit, something like that. But Wendell Carter Jr. would be the only true center on the roster. So we might be looking at something like 34, 36 minutes from Wendell Carter Jr. in a really good matchup that we've looked to attack all season long against Jakob Poeltl on the Raptors. So he'd be a very, very good play, and probably something that would be very tough to avoid. But if Cole Anthony were to miss, he's had a really solid role as the ball handler for the Magic, and taking him out of the lineup, you're pretty thin there as well with no Jalen Suggs, no Franz Wagner. It's really just Paolo, and then like Anthony Black probably gets a start at 4.4K. We've seen him be able to play pretty heavy minutes as well. But they also have guys like Trevelyan Queen that could mix in a little bit. He's been playing a lot of minutes lately. So, if Cole misses, I'm looking at whoever's starting, but I think Anthony Black would probably be the most likely candidate, and he'd be a pretty good value play. And then if it's Trevelyan Queen, which is probably an outside chance for him to start. I mean, there's also an outside chance that it's Corey Joseph. So there's a lot of ways that could go. I have to see how the minutes and projections shake out. But, up top, I think Paolo is really good. We haven't seen him touch 30 minutes yet since coming back from the injury, but he's still posted some pretty solid usage rates, and he could just have a massive role tonight. You're not too concerned about the Raptors defensively. They've been pretty bad everywhere all season long, especially around the basket, which is where Paolo is going to do most of his damage. So I think that Paolo is a really good play tonight, 8.6K. Probably, I don't know. I would probably prefer playing him. I mean, you could probably do one off him, but I think it makes more sense from an upside standpoint to get him with a Toronto piece, or maybe a couple Magic pieces and a Toronto piece, something like that. But yeah, I think he's really good. And And then if Cole were to miss, I think that KCP would have a pretty big offensive workload as well. Really good matchup for three-point shooters. Raptors have been really bad in that category this month. And we know that he can play into the upper 30s, so I think that he'd be pretty solid. And Tristan da Silva, if he's getting some center minutes, he would look pretty solid.
Sorry to interrupt. Is it KCP over Anthony Black? That would be my lean just from Black. We've seen him in the past, but where do you lean between those two if Anthony's out?
I think if Black was starting, I would prefer him just because he doesn't need to be reliant on scoring to put up fantasy points, whereas KCP is very rare that he adds in more than like 3 assists or like more than 3 rebounds, something like that. So you really need like 18 to 20 points from him for him to start to like bury you for not playing him. I think that Black would have much more appealing ceiling. I do see Matt mentioning in chat that he was I didn't watch that game. I haven't really watched a lot of Magic, but that's definitely something to note. Kind of surprised. Magic have been really good with their injury reporting this season, so maybe we'll get something in the next hour or so. But yeah, I think I would lean Black there, and then I think Tristan da Silva would probably be better than KCP as well. Obviously, different positional stuff, but if he's getting some of those backup center minutes, then it's a higher floor for him in terms of getting rebounds, things like that. And we know that he could play. He touched 40 minutes not too long ago, so I know that the minutes upside is there for him as well. Toronto side is pretty interesting too. With no Emmanuel quickly, we've seen Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett basically split that point guard role down the middle. Scotty Barnes had a 25% usage rate, 31% assist percentage, team leading 4.6 minutes of touch time, and he's playing a lot of minutes, 37 minutes per game. Matchup is better for the on-ball guys as the Magic are allowing a good amount of pick and roll scoring this season. So I think that Barnes has a ton of upside with the possible triple-double threat. But RJ Barrett surprisingly leading the Raptors in the most meaningful usage categories, 29% usage rate, actually leading with a 34% assist percentage, but just behind Scotty with 3.4 minutes of touch time. But his minutes have been fluctuating a lot, 29 and 26 minutes out of two of his last 3 games. And I don't think that was really even due to foul trouble or anything like that. But at modest ownership, I think that I lean RJ Barrett over Scotty Barnes tonight. The price tag is starting to come down as well. 7.7K is really good for him. I think that RJ Barrett looks really strong tonight. If you're playing into this game, staying close, which it should. And then Pirtle on the other side of things, the matchup is a lot easier not having guys like Goga down low and possibly Jonathan Isaac is out. Then their rim defense is going to be pretty bad on the Orlando side. He's got double-doubles in 3 straight games. And, slight leverage. He's going to be probably half the ownership as Wendell Carter Jr., so you could find the extra $400 to get up to, or $300 to get up to Jakob Poeltl. I think that makes some sense. Don't really like Grady Dick tonight. Not a good spot for 3-point shooters. If Boucher were to miss, that's going to open up a rotation spot, probably for Jonathan Mobo, I would imagine, maybe a little bit more for Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk, but nothing too much to go out of your way to play these value guys by any means.
Yeah, no, it's so funny to see some of these price tags that not only over the last couple of weeks have come down a couple thousand, but I mean, we were paying obviously with injuries and no Scotty Barnes and no Quickly, but paying like mid 6Ks for Grady Dick. And now it's like sticker shock. You're down at the low 4Ks. It almost makes you want to click it, but I agree. Tough matchup. But 4.2, if he's able to get hot, who knows? It is NBA. But good. 2 interesting games here to end. We'll start first with, I like the Laker game the most, but the Sixers and Nuggets. The Nuggets are 12.5-point favorites, obviously, in a 230.5 total. No Lowry, Embiid's ducking Joker again. No Caleb Martin. Paul George, Drummond, and Yabu are all questionable, and then Murray and Watson are probable. To note what Jordan said earlier in the chat, Embiid and Joker haven't played against each other since Tom Brady was still playing for the Patriots. Interesting to see some of those comparisons. But what are we thinking here in a real interesting game?
Yeah, it's going to be really tough to break down without knowing or just having better clarity on the injury situation, because it's huge. Like if you don't have Paul George, Yabu, and Drummond in there, we're talking about really good price tags on guys like Justin Edwards, Ricky Council, and Adem Bona would all be in play, because even in blowout, those guys are going to play a ton. So you're definitely going to want to have a strategy tonight on how to play these last 2 games. Probably want like 4 pieces in those late night games, something like that, and be able to move it all around. But yeah, I would just say as of now, I'm kind of leaning Drummond the most likely to play with Paul George and Yabu. A little bit more on the doubtful side. I think Yabu is probably more on the doubtful side of things than Paul George, a true questionable. But yeah, like I said, if those guys were to miss, if either one of Yabu is in or out, it's going to benefit the other. So if Yabu's out, Drummond's in. Really good price tag for Drummond. The matchup is really not too bad with Jokic not really expending too much energy on the defensive end. He's 4.9K, so that'd be a really good price tag for him. And then if Paul George is in, I like him more than Tyrese Maxey at 8.1K. He's had 3 really strong games before missing a handful of games due to injury. But if he were to be out, I think we would see Ricky Council get the start, Justin Edwards mixing in there as well, and those guys would both look really good. But yeah, I'm not paying 9.9K for Tyrese Maxey on this slate. I think Kelly Oubre is probably a better option than Tyrese Maxey as well, just because he's playing a ton of minutes, taking a lot of shots. Rebounding rates have been really strong as well. So I think that I prefer Paul George, Kelly Oubre over Tyrese Maxey tonight, and then Drummond would look really good if he is in and Yabu's out. But yeah, like I said, you just got to have a plan on the Sixers side because I would have a lot of interest in Justin Edwards just because I know that he's a pretty solid player overall, and he'd be playing probably into blowout. So maybe I take the back, but probably not a solid player, but he can flash outside. I think that I talked about it with that OKC game, got him at super low ownership, and that was like a 99th percentile outcome from him and Jeff Doughton. So probably wouldn't expect that again tonight, but yeah, he would still be in play as a value. Probably Ricky Council would be the better play. On the Denver side of things, like the 2 guys up top, Jokic and Murray a lot. Jokic probably gonna have to get it done in 3 quarters, which he can do. He did it against Orlando just last game, but definitely would hope that the game is staying close and you get a full 4th quarter run from Jokic. Because I mean it's a heavy price tag, and if you get 60 from him, I think that would be a fail on tonight's slate personally. Yeah, so you gotta think that through because yeah, good chance that Philly just can't hang around. This team is really bad offensively and defensively with all the injuries they've been dealing with. So I would be a little cautious about playing Jokic at high ownership. But if the game's close, there's no doubt that he's going to have the highest score on the slate. I do think Jamal Murray is interesting, though, because we've seen him play deeper in a blowout just with the way that his rotation shakes out. He plays like the last 3 to 4 minutes of the third and then plays like the first 4 to 6 in the fourth. So even if they're up by like 20, 25, he'll be out there for the start of the 4th quarter. So probably getting 34 minutes regardless with upside for more if the game does stay close. Should be a really good spot for him as well with no Caleb Martin on the other side. There's really no good on-ball defenders in the starting unit for Philly, so he has a lot of paths to get there in a pretty big way. So I like Jamal Murray at 7.4K, playing a lot better as of late as well. With Westbrook kind of being de-emphasized a little bit, we've seen his role expand a little bit. Yeah, I don't think I want to get there on these secondary pieces. I think that the most interesting one, probably Strother for the blowout run because he'd play a full 4th quarter stint if the game does blow out. But I do think this is a decent spot to get some sprinkles of Aaron Gordon. He's starting to eat into Russell Westbrook's minutes a little bit more. And a matchup when you have Drummond down low and not Joel Embiid could lead to a lot of really easy buckets around the basket for a guy like Aaron Gordon, who probably be matched up with I mean, if Paul George is out, like it's going to be Ricky Council and Justin Edwards in the second unit against Aaron Gordon, and that'd be a really good spot for him. So I think Aaron Gordon is a pretty good option at 4.4K. Would not play him with Westbrook. I think they're eating to each other a good bit right now. Yeah, I'm not really buying into the random spike in reboundings for Christian Bond. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like Jamal, like Jokic, I like Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, love the Aaron Gordon stuff. I guess what my concern there would be, him coming back from injury, they'd be a little cautious to give him that couple extra minutes of run if it's a little if the game gets out of hand. But I would agree, 4,400, man. I mean, he could smash that in a half. We've seen games where he's been able to do that. So love the call there. Would you max out a certain number of Sixers if we got all this value that we talk about? Let's say Paul George and Yabu and or Drummond are out. So 2 of the 3. What would be your max number of Sixers you'd be willing to play from the value perspective?
Yeah, I think that 3 would probably be okay. The guys I would not be playing would be Tyrese Maxey. I would probably be a little bit lower on Kelly Oubre if Paul George and Yabu were to be out, just because I think that the game is even more likely to blow out there, and I would be leaning into like the Ricky Council, Justin Edwards stuff a little bit more. Not really Jeff Doughton because you need Maxey to be out for him to get more run. But I would be okay with Drummond at 4.9K. I'd be really good with Council, and I'd be okay with Justin Edwards. So yeah, definitely max 3. You could probably even do max 2, to be honest.
Great. Love it. Last game, probably my favorite game on the slate, just because I think the spread's a little too large, especially with the questionable tag to Anthony Davis tonight. But this is going to be an up and down. Lakers have a 121 team total. We have a game total of 228. The Lakers are favored by 13.5. Obviously, Brogdon, Bagley, Bay, they're all out. Wood and Vanderbilt obviously out. AD questionable and LeBron probable. We kind of talked pre-show that you think this would be a good spot for AD to miss. So interested to hear your take on that as we dive into the last game of the slate.
Yeah, I was just checking some props really quick to see if they have any juiced lines for these Lakers, because that's usually a pretty good indicator that that the prop market would think that he's going to be out. But yeah, the Lakers have a pretty tough schedule coming up. I believe they play Boston on Thursday, Golden State on Saturday, and then they have a road trip after that with a couple back-to-backs mixed in. So yeah, you would think that a matchup versus Washington is probably a good chance to give Anthony Davis a little bit of rest. But we don't know. I'm just kind of speculating. I think that does make a lot of sense. Kind of just have to talk as if he's in, though. I'll touch on it briefly. If he's out, like LeBron, Reeves, Rui, Max Christie, all those guys are going to look a lot better. Jackson Hayes, if he's not getting ownership just because it's the last game of the slate, would be a very strong option. Kind of similar to like the Khalil Ware, where he came in like 5% ownership just because there was value earlier in the slate. So could be something similar to that, and it's a great matchup with Wizards being one of the worst defenses in the league. So I think that just having a plan for that would make some sense. I didn't really think too much through some swaps, but maybe after break down this game, we'll think through some. But yeah, definitely want to be prepared for that. But I think that just touching the Lakers stuff quickly, because it's pretty straightforward. AD and LeBron probably going to want to have one of these guys in your lineups tonight. I just think that there's a really good chance one of these guys, if not both of them, smash. I'm not really looking to go on my way to play both, but I do think that one of these guys gets there in a pretty big way. I don't really have a lean. Like the matchup is slightly better for Anthony Davis with the Wizards being dead last in DVP versus centers this season, but it's equally as good for LeBron. They're bottom 2 against power forwards this season, DVP wise. I will say that the matchup is probably a little bit tougher for LeBron with Koulibaly on him, but Koulibaly's been giving up a lot of big games lately, so I'm not really leaning into that too much. Yeah, I don't really have a take, though. I think these guys are both really good. Austin Reeves, too, I think is very solid. He's shown pretty solid upside alongside of Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Had a really strong role with the ball handling stuff since D'Angelo Russell has been out of the lineup, but starting to see those minutes get ticked down a little bit with Gabe Vincent getting a little bit healthier. Been kind of in that 34, 35-minute range instead of like the 38, 39, 40-minute range. But he could still get it done here in a pretty big way against Washington. So I like him a lot. I think that Christie is probably a bad play at 20%-ish. He's very streaky as a shooter, not guaranteed to play 30 minutes tonight. If I'm looking at some of these value pieces on the Lakers side, I think Rui Hachimura is pretty good. If you want to get into the revenge narrative stuff, I don't really think that would be why I'm playing him, but the minutes have been really strong for him the last 3 games, 30-plus minutes in 4 straight. Been putting up a lot of shots as well, flash some upside. And he's only going to be, around 5-6% ownership. I think that's a really good spot to lean into. So I like Rui a good bit tonight. And then, like I mentioned, the Jackson Hayes stuff, want to have a plan to get to some of him if Anthony Davis does get ruled out. Washington side is interesting too, though. I think that there's a good chance that Washington is capable of keeping this game close. Just Lakers have not really impressed me defensively. I would say Washington's been a little bit better in January 2025. They've been a little bit better defensively and offensively, so they do have the chance to keep the game close. The guys that I would want in a close game scenario would be Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma for sure. I think Poole is a really good play tonight, though. He had coming off a down game against Sacramento, which is really not something to be too mad about because Sacramento has been really good defensively this season. But before that, went off against his old team, against the Warriors, 38 real points to that one, 54 DK points. Last time Jordan Poole played in LA, he went for 53 DK points last season, 34 real points, and that was off the bench. You also have the narrative of the baddie sitting courtside. So if there's going to be some baddies sitting courtside at a Lakers game for sure. So he'll have that extra motivation there. But jokes aside, the matchup's been really good for guards all season long against the Lakers. They're bottom 5 in DVP this month. against shooting guards. So I think this is a really, really good spot for Jordan Poole, and it makes a lot of sense correlating him with one of LeBron or AD or Reeves or something like that. I think that if the game stays close, Poole is probably playing 36-ish minutes. I think that he's pretty good. I got to check in chat to see if we're getting the nod from Sean.
I think we did get one early this morning, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was
right,
last night or early. I think we did get the nod.
Perfect. So we're firing up some Jordan Poole tonight. But yeah, Kyle Kuzma, he's playing, consistently into the low 30s. Matchup is not terrible. I definitely prefer the upside on Jordan Poole when they're only 1,200 apart, but he'd be the next guy I would look to because he's probably playing 32, 33 minutes if the game is close. The bigs, Joval and Alex Sarr, I think are pretty strong as well. Lakers' rim defense has not been good this season. Their transition defense is not good. So I would say it's probably a slightly better spot for Sarr, but he will be guarding Anthony Davis if he's in for the start of the game, which could lead to some foul trouble, which makes Joval a pretty strong pivot at 5K, low ownership as well, and we know what he can do when he's given the minutes. So max one of those two guys. Koulibaly, kind of interesting just because he might play a ton of minutes for the defense on LeBron, but he has not shown that same upside we saw earlier this season. So I'm okay with him. I don't really like Bub. Carlton Carrington, he's had all the opportunity to have a really big role in the starting lineup, but just hasn't really capitalized on it. Really efficient as a shooter, kind of losing a lot of touches and usage to Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. So his time will come, but I don't think it's right now. And then I'm okay, probably max one of like Kispert, Keontae, or Keyshawn George range. I think the matchup is pretty good for 3-point shooters against the Lakers. Kispert is probably the guy you'd want there, but not really running to play these guys. I definitely like Jordan Poole. Correlating him with LeBron is probably my preferred route in this game.
Yeah, great. We've talked about this in the past, specifically on these smaller slates. Jay, I believe with the sick Hemi, that's a dope car if it's yours. Can we play these guys together? I mean, I've seen, we maybe a month ago we chatted about it for a sec, but on these smaller slates, if they're both in, we have all of these, bigger games with the big spreads with possible blowouts. We're talking about Joker maybe getting 3/4 and obviously like Banchero with question marks on the minutes. Could this be a spot where we just eat up a team total of 120 points with their two studs?
Yeah, I think so. This could very well be a slate where like the leading scorer on the slate is 60, 61-ish, and that's probably Jokic. Or if this game stays close, maybe it's Anthony Davis. Then LeBron's 55-pointer would look really good as well as a kind of a value pivot off of Jokic for 2K less. So yeah, I think that is definitely possible tonight. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Normally, yeah, anything probably bigger than like 7, I would say, maybe even 6 would probably be the cutoff on playing these guys together. But I think you could do it tonight with the game total being really strong for both of them.
Great. And I know you kind of touched on it earlier, but in my mind, the first thing I think about if AD ends up being out tonight is just to smash with Reeves and LeBron, kind of starting lineups from there. Shoot, man, to be honest with you, I might be able to do that and mix up some swaps like what you're talking about. So I kind of play with that a little bit. What is the time difference in the Nuggets game? Are they the same time? No, 30-minute difference. So
apart.
You'll be able to make some decisions there kind of with the 2 games left. But no, great stuff. We did it in under 40 minutes, man. 5 games. Rio broke it down great. Anything else you kind of want to touch on before we get out of here and go build some lineups before lock?
I think we need to tune into Jake DeWitt's live stream because DVP is useless and this guy is a known winner. So everybody go to his channel and give him a follow.
Yeah, we clearly disagree, but hey, I think that's a couple times we've talked about it here on this show. Rio, my favorite game tonight, Laker game. I'm going to be sitting around trying to figure out how to mix and match that. But really excited to kind of see what you come up with as we get closer to lock. Guys, appreciate it. One more time, ship 50. If you guys are in here, 50% off your first month with all access to the site, whether it's golf, UFC, NFL's finishing up. But we're getting into those dog days. We're going to get to play NBA every night, mixing some hockey with nades, and get to sweat golf all weekend. And this is the place to be. So appreciate it. Good luck in all your contests tonight, guys. And let's ship it.